Okay, let's just do a quick review video for the FPL Fight Club tournament that went down yesterday. That was September 25th, 2021. This is a pretty barren spreadsheet, but I just wanted to convey a couple pieces of information to you guys. These are the teams, which we already went over, but if you were curious, each of the teams had 3 pro players, and then they all had 1 content creator, and then they all had 1 quote-unquote up-and-coming player. But the last team here had Silent Sentry as their content creator and Goddess as their up-and-coming player, even though she is a former pro player that has won a dream hack and I guess now plays in like the women's league, the CCS or whatever, CCS women's league. So she, I don't know, they just called her the up-and-coming player, even though that's not really what she is at this point. Okay, so right, Team Alpha, Rexon, Achieved, and Rampy, and I have the teams that they're on if you're curious. The pro teams, of course, are all up here, and then if they're on a Challenger League team, 2 Nocturnes player and an Aerial or Ice player. So yeah, Rexon, Achieved, and Rampy, and then they had Kickstar and Sykesies. So going into this was a pretty good looking team, considering Kickstar's got to be the best of the content creators. Of course, King George is a former world champion, but Kickstar is still just a really solid player. Although, you know, King George's not bad, but yeah, probably Kickstar is the best one in this slot. And then Sykesies was a relatively unknown player, but I think there's going to be a lot of eyes on him after his performance in this tournament. I'll flip to another tab and show the stats in a second for the matches. But yeah, going into this, we hadn't even seen him play in Challenger League because he had a bye last week, so he plays today, September 26th. So if you're watching this video, you might be able to catch that match if you're interested. So yeah, Team Alpha was looking really good going into it. Team Bravo, we had Bolo, Hot and Cold, and Thomas. Bolo, you know, just really well-known, one of the most well-known Siege players, if not the most well-known current pro player. Hot and Cold, just like the star of the NAL, and then Thomas, vibes man, although certainly on the most struggling NAL team of any of the players in this. And then Ri-Fi, I think I said that she was in an org and that it might be TSI. I'm pretty sure it's G2, and it certainly was G2. I don't know 100% that she's still on G2, but I'm pretty sure she is. And Gomez from Aerial or Rise, she's got to be like, well, I don't know if it's her or Silent Sentry. I said she was probably the weakest one going into it because I knew of her some amount and I didn't know Silent Sentry. I thought he was like maybe a T3 player or something. Turns out he's a GTA role player. He didn't do like god awful in this tournament, but certainly these two were the weak links in the content creator slot. Anyways, that was that team. Charlie had Fultz, Yaga, Kino, King George, and Marmalade. Once again, former world champion King George, plays the game a lot, still like a very high elo player, so nothing to sneeze at. Marmalade, CL player, generally a support player, but she absolutely turned up in this tournament. Went big for her team, not that it got them anywhere, but she, I think, put up the best stats of her team. Yaga and Kino from the same team, you would have thought that those would give them some advantage, and also these are 2 of the players in this that actually play a decent bit of FPL. This is an FPL tournament, but I think Achieve plays a little bit. I'd never see like Rampy or Rexon really play. Kickstar a tiny bit. Bolo plays some. Hot and Cold, no, Thomas some. Hot and Cold not really. Gomez might play some. I don't think Fultz hardly plays. Yaga and Kino play a decent bit. Marmalade plays quite a bit. Sky's not really. Grixer used to be like, is probably the all-time GOAT of NA FPL, but I don't think he really plays much these days. And then Hyper a tiny bit as well. And God is quite a bit. Okay, so, you know, in hindsight, actually, there's quite a few players that play a decent bit, but not all of them. So, and now Team Delta, yeah, Skies, Grixer, and Hyper. Just a fearsome trio to have for sure. Silent Sentry, the GTA role player. His name is like, what is it, like Ronald Buttercorn? No, Ronald something. I don't know, actually. I looked it up and I don't remember now, but GTA role player, very, I guess, well-known Twitch streamer. And then, you know, Goddess, former pro player. DreamHack, I think, Montreal champion. And, okay, so those are the teams. They're fairly well-balanced for the most part. I mean, they all have, like, 3 really good pros, and then King George and Kickstar are good, and then they all have, like, solid, you know, quote-unquote up-and-coming players, but then Silent Sentry and Ri-Fi have to certainly be weak links. Maybe their skill in the game isn't like terrible, but they just certainly don't have like the comp experience to know what is going on 100% of the time in this sort of setting, even though it's not the most competitive of settings, but still, you get the idea. Right, so here were the matches. This was Team A, Team Alpha versus Team Bravo, and Team Charlie versus Team Delta before the finals. So both of them went to all 3 maps, which was cool, but none of them were that close. Like none of them, I guess 1-7-5, but none of them went overtime. And then this was kind of a little bit of a blowout, and so was this. And then these are, 7-4s. Like, it's kind of close. Not the closest, but at least they put up a fight. Yeah, we only saw 4 maps over the course of 9 games. We saw Coastline 3 times. We saw Chalet 2 times. We saw Clubhouse, and we saw 2 Oregons. And I think Oregon was supposed to be the decider here, so still, even if it went 9 games, or did I say 9 games? 8 games, I meant, if I said 9. If it went 9 games, we still would have only seen 4 maps, because this was supposed to be an Oregon decider. And I guess that's all for that. Well, let me just talk about a little bit what happens before I show the stats. I mean, yeah, they both went to Coastline. It was which one? I think it was this one, the Alpha Bravo game that went 6-0 in Team Bravo's half in the first half, and then Team Alpha took 4 in a row, and then they finally fell. But then, they ended up winning the other 2, so that's cool. And then this was a little bit closer of a game. This was actually I think this was a 5-5, so then it ended up going, luckily for Alpha, the 2 rounds went in their favor, and then they were able to win Oregon pretty handily. And then, these were pretty decisive, fairly decisive games or rather, 2 7-4s for Delta, and Charlie had the better win, but they only got 1 map win, so it didn't matter. Yeah, going into it, probably Alpha. Well, in hindsight now, I think Alpha looked the strongest because we saw Sykes, what Sykes could really do. He turned up, but even despite that, probably Alpha looked the strongest, followed by, probably Charlie. So it's a bit surprising Delta took him down, having Silent Sentry on their team, when, former world champion King George and FPL Demon Marmalade, as well, of course, as well as FPL Demons Yaga and Kino, and world champion NAL Demon Fultz. Yeah, surprising that this team fell, but these guys bossed up. I don't know, it just happened. But then they were no match for Alpha because it went to the finals. Yeah, it went. I think this might have been a 5-5, and then I think it was. And then Alpha broke away. They took the 2 rounds, and then at that point, it really looked like Delta didn't care so much. They were just doing whatever. I tuned into their I was hopping streams quite a lot during this, and they didn't seem like they were just saying, like. Didn't seem like they were actively trying to throw, but they were playing in a way that they didn't care. So, throwing it away. But yeah, they sort of just gave up after I think they lost. It looked like they were probably trying here. They brought it to a 5-5, but then when they lost that, they just felt defeated. They'd already been playing for like, 4 hours or 3 hours and something or whatever going into this map. Close to 4 hours. And then they had to win 2 back-to-back maps against like these absolute demons. Sykes was going savage on them. So those were the results, and now let's just look at the stats. So courtesy of this guy's Twitter, he was posting the stats, and they're just the overall match stats. They're not the individual map stats, but still, I mean, it's whatever. Okay, so the first match, and this is between Team Alpha and Team Bravo. As you can see, Rexon and Hot and Cold did pretty well. Hot and Cold was doing really, really well. I think it was the 3rd map when he ended up going +10 with a good rating, but he went like 5-9 or something in the last map, so he did really well in the first 2 maps, and then as you can see, well, I got decimated, and the other 3 were around ±0, but it was not enough to get it done. Rexon and Sykes right behind him, and I guess Sykes actually got 1 more kill on the same number of deaths, but he was less in the opening kill department and in the lower cost, and he didn't have a plant, so that's why Rexon has a little bit higher of a rating. And then let's look at the next one. This one here, yeah, so Skies started off really slowly, I think, in this match, and so did, I think all the 3 of the pro players actually started off pretty slow. One of them was getting, I think maybe Skies and Hyper were both on like 0-4 or something. Grixer had not very many kills. Silent Sentry, I think, was out fragging him for the first part of the first map or something, but I guess by the end of the series, Skies turned up, and he ended up getting the dub for his team. Yeah, like I said, Marmalade was the best performer on her team, and the only other one that did fairly well, I guess, was Yaga. Fultz barely went positive. Kino did not do well, and neither did King George. Yeah, and then for the finals, we have this one. As you can see, Sykesy destroyed these guys 24-9 against Grixer, Skies, and Hyper. And Hyper, he's the bottom here. And what was he? He was and he was in the middle. Yeah, Hyper was not performing. I don't know. I guess he just was not caring, or it wasn't feeling, or just was having a bad day. But that's not. These aren't exactly Hyper-esque stats. He got outdone by Silent Sentry on the final match, and yeah, one more kill, but one more death as well. And then everyone, I mean, as you can see, everyone just got destroyed here. The stats are probably like fairly close for the coastline map. But then when you factor in a 7-1 Chalet game, their stats are just in the toilet. Yeah, Sykesy destroyed them. Rexon did really well as well. And then, I mean, in this series, yeah, Kickstart, everyone did fine. Achieve went like -1, but he was playing support stuff the whole game, just letting all his other gunners gun. And that was that. It was pretty fun to watch. For the first while, I had 5 streams open. I was flipping around. I had all of the SSG guys because there's one on each team. So I had Sky's stream open, Hot and Cold stream open, Fultz and Rampy, and then I also had Super stream. And I was watching that him and Drip Boolin on the expert commentary. It was a pretty fun stream. And then I think in the last match I started watching a little bit of Grixer's stream, and I just tuned in for a little bit to see how defeated they sounded. They didn't sound that defeated, but you could tell they certainly were. And maybe I just wasn't watching at the right moments. So that was that. I guess they're supposed to be doing this every month or some months. I don't know. It's supposed to be a monthly tournament anyway, so we'll see what the next one is. If it's going to have some of the same players, if it's even going to be the same region. It could be in Europe or LATAM or something. It's supposed to expand to other regions at some point, if not immediately. And that was that in FPL Fight Club #1 review.